The next few days, Marisol kept her distance, volunteering for tasks that would keep her away from the main farm. Caleb didn't comment on the change, but she caught him watching her with a puzzled expression more than once. On Friday eevening, she skipped dinner at the main house for the first time in weeks, choosing instead to eat a simple meal in her cabin. She was just washing her dishes when a knock came at the door. Caleb stood on her porch, holding a covered dish. "You missed pie," he said, "blueberry, from the bushes at the edge of the property." Oh, Marisol said, uncertain. "Thank you." "Can I come in?" Caleb asked. "Just for a minute." Marisol hesitated, then stepped back to let him enter. He placed the pie on a small table and turned to face her. "Did I do something wrong, Marisol?" he asked directly. "You've been avoiding me." "No," she said quickly. "No, you didn't do anything wrong. I just ... I needed some space." Space is something we have plenty of here," Caleb said with a small smile. "But I miss having you around." The simple honesty of his statement caught her off guard. "I'm still around," she said. "I'm just busy." Caleb studied her face for a moment. "Okay," he said finally. "I won't push, but the invitation for dinner is always open." After he left, Marisol sat on her porch watching the stars appear one by one in the night sky. She had come to Sweet Pine Farm looking for quiet and solitude. Instead, she had found Caleb Morgan, with his kind eyes and gentle ways, who noticed the small things about her that no one else ever had, and it terrified her. The next morning, Marisol was determined to keep things professional. She arrived at the barn exactly at 5, focused on her tasks, and spoke only when necessary. Caleb followed her lead, keeping his distance and limiting their conversation to work-related topics. But as they were finishing the evening chores, a summer storm blew in suddenly, catching them both by surprise. They raced for the shelter of the barn, already soaked by the time they reached it. That came out of nowhere," Caleb said, shaking water from his hair. Marisol couldn't help but laugh at his appearance like a dog after a bath. Caleb grinned in response, and for a moment, the tension between them dissolved. "We're stuck here until it passes," he said, looking out at the sheeting rain. "Might as well get comfortable." He spread a horse blanket on a pile of hay and gestured for Marisol to sit. She did, aware of how close he was as he settled beside her. They listened to the rain pounding on the roof, the occasional rumble of thunder, and the soft nickering of the horses in their stalls. I used to be afraid of storms when I was little," Caleb said. "My mom would tell me that thunder was just the angels bowling in heaven." My father never said anything like that," Marisol said. "He was ... practical." Not one for fairy tales. Not one for comfort," Marisol corrected. "He provided for me, made sure I had what I needed. But warm. And your mother?" Caleb asked gently. She left when I was 8, Marisol said, surprised at herself for sharing this. "I don't remember much about her." I'm sorry," Caleb said. "That must have been hard." Marisol shrugged. "It was a long time ago." They fell silent again, watching the rain. Marisol was acutely aware of Caleb beside her, the warmth of his body, the scent of hay and rain, and something uniquely him. You. "No," Caleb said after a while. "When I first saw you pull up in that old truck of yours, I thought you might be trouble." Marisol raised an eyebrow. "Trouble?" Not in a bad way," Caleb clarified with a smile. "Just ... different. Most people who apply for farm work are either college kids, looking for summer jobs, or old-timers who've been doing it their whole lives. It didn't fit either category." And now?" Marisol asked, curious despite herself. Now, I think you might be exactly what this place needed," Caleb said softly. Their eyes met, and Marisol felt that same electric shock she'd experienced when their hands touched. Only this time, she didn't pull away. The rain began to slacken, and reality intruded once more. Marisol stood up quickly, brushing hay from her jeans. "I think we can make it to the house now," she said, her voice slightly unsteady. Caleb nodded, getting to his feet. "Marisol," he began. "I'll see you tomorrow," she interrupted, and then she was gone, running through the light rain toward her cabin, leaving Caleb standing in the doorway of the barn, watching her go. That night, Marisol couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Caleb's face, felt the warmth of his presence beside her on that hay bale. What was happening to her? She had come to Sweet Pine Farm for peace, not complications, not feelings. But as the first light of dawn crept through her window, Marisol had to admit the truth to herself. She was falling for Caleb Morgan, and she had no idea what to do about it. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. The morning after the storm, Marisol arrived at the barn earlier than usual. She needed to keep busy, to focus on work rather than the confusing feelings swirling inside her. To her relief, Caleb wasn't there yet. She began feeding the horses, finding comfort in the simple, familiar task. Asterisk, asterisk, you're up early. Caleb's voice came from behind her. Asterisk, asterisk. Marisol turned to see him standing in the doorway, 2 steaming cups in his hands. He looked tired, as if he hadn't slept well either. Asterisk, asterisk. Couldn't sleep, she admitted, accepting the coffee he offered. Asterisk, asterisk. Their fingers brushed during the exchange, and neither pulled away immediately. The moment stretched between them, filled with unspoken words. Asterisk, asterisk. About yesterday. They both began at the same time, then stopped, sharing a small smile. Asterisk, asterisk. You first, Caleb said. Asterisk, asterisk. Marisol took a deep breath. I'm not good at this, she said, finally, at ... feelings. The word felt foreign on her tongue. Asterisk, asterisk. Caleb nodded. I noticed that about you. Asterisk, asterisk. It's not that I dance single quotes t ... She struggled to find the right words. I just don't know how to ... Asterisk, asterisk. It's okay, Caleb said gently. We don't have to figure everything out right now. We've got time. Asterisk, asterisk. The simple statement eased something in Marisol's chest. Time, yes, that's what she needed. Time to understand these new feelings. Time to learn to trust them. Time to trust Caleb. Asterisk, asterisk. Now, Caleb said, draining his coffee. We've got a delivery of feed coming this morning, and the vet's scheduled to check on Daisy's leg. Busy day ahead. Asterisk, asterisk. Marisol was grateful for the return to normal routine. They worked side by side all morning, unloading the feed delivery, helping the vet with Daisy, the mare who had injured her leg the previous week, and repairing a leaky pipe in the main house. Asterisk, asterisk. At lunch, they sat together on the porch steps, eating sandwiches and watching the farm dogs chase each other across the yard. Asterisk, asterisk. You're good with animals, Caleb observed as one of the dogs, a black and white border collie, named Max, came to rest his head on Marisol's knee. Asterisk, asterisk. She scratched behind Max's ears, smiling. They're easier than people. They don't expect anything from you except kindness. Asterisk, asterisk. Is that what you think people expect? More than kindness? Asterisk, asterisk. Marisol considered the question. Most people I've known wanted something from me. My father wanted me to be strong and independent. My boyfriends wanted me to be someone I wasn't. Asterisk, asterisk. And what do you think I want from you? Caleb asked quietly. Asterisk, asterisk. Marisol met his gaze. That's what confuses me. I can't figure it out. Asterisk, asterisk. Caleb smiled, a gentle, understanding smile that made her heart beat faster. Maybe that's because I want anything from you, Marisol. I just want to know you. Asterisk, asterisk. The afternoon passed in comfortable silence as they tended to their separate tasks. Marisol found herself watching Caleb when he wasn't looking, the way his strong hands worked with gentle precision, the way the sun brought out the gold in his brown hair, the easy way he moved, confident but never imposing. Asterisk, asterisk. At dinner that night, Caleb surprised her with homemade lasagna and a bottle of wine. Asterisk, asterisk. What's the occasion? Marisol asked as he poured her a glass. Asterisk, asterisk. 2 months, Caleb said. You've been here 2 months today. Asterisk, asterisk. Marisol was surprised both by the fact and that he had remembered. Has it been that long already? Asterisk, asterisk. Time flies when you're having fun, Caleb teased, raising his glass in a toast. To new beginnings. Asterisk, asterisk. Marisol clinked her glass against his. To new beginnings, she echoed, feeling the truth of the words. Asterisk, asterisk. After dinner, they sat on the porch swing, watching the stars appear. The night was warm, with a gentle breeze carrying the scent of pine and wildflowers. Marisol felt more at peace than she had in years. Asterisk, asterisk. Tell me something about yourself, Caleb said, breaking the comfortable silence. Something no one else knows. Asterisk, asterisk. Thought for a moment. I used to want to be a veterinarian, she said. But after my mother left, there wasn't money for college. My father needed help with his construction business. So that's what I did. Asterisk, asterisk. It's not too late, you know, Caleb said. For college. Asterisk, asterisk. Marisol shook her head. That dream was a lifetime ago. Asterisk, asterisk. What about now? What do you dream about now? Asterisk, asterisk. The question caught her off guard. No one had ever asked her that before. I don't know, she said honestly. For a long time I've just been trying to get by. Asterisk, asterisk. Caleb's hand found hers in the darkness, his fingers intertwining with hers. Maybe it's time to start dreaming again, he suggested softly. Asterisk, asterisk. Marisol didn't pull away. Instead, she rested her head against his shoulder, allowing herself this moment of connection. What about you? She asked. What do you dream about? This, Caleb said simply. The farm, the animals, a good life. He paused. Someone to share it with. The words hung in the air between them, full of possibility. Marisol felt her heart racing, but not with the fear she would have expected. Instead, there was a warm, tender feeling spreading through her chest. "It's getting late," she said finally, standing up. "I should go." Caleb walked her to her cabin, their hands still linked. At her door, he paused. "Good night, Marisol," he said, his voice low and warm. "Good night, Caleb," she replied. He leaned down slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted to. She didn't. His lips met hers in a gentle kiss, brief but full of promise. Then he was gone, walking back toward the main house, leaving Marisol standing on her porch, her fingers pressed to her lips, her heart full of something that felt dangerously like hope. The next few weeks brought a subtle shift in their relationship. They still worked side by side, still shared meals and quiet evenings. But now there were lingering touches, shared smiles, and stolen kisses in the barn or under the apple trees. Marisol found herself looking forward to these moments, treasuring them. One Sunday, their day off, Caleb suggested a picnic by the small lake at the edge of the property. "I can't believe I've been here almost 3 months and haven't seen the lake yet," Marisol said as they spread a blanket under a large oak tree. "It's my favorite spot on the whole farm," Caleb admitted, unpacking the basket he'd brought. "My grandfather proposed to my grandmother right here, under this tree." "That's sweet," Marisol said, accepting the plate of fried chicken he handed her. "Were they happy together?" "Very," Caleb said with a smile. 62 years they were married. They bickered all the time, but you could see the love between them. "My grandmother used to say that my grandfather told her he loved her every single day of their marriage." Every day. Marisol couldn't imagine such constancy. "Every day," Caleb confirmed, "even when they fought. Maybe especially then." After they ate, they lay side by side on the blanket, watching the clouds drift across the sky. Caleb's hand found hers, his thumb tracing circles on her palm. "What was your longest relationship?" he asked. 2 years, Marisol answered, "with a guy named Ryan. He was intense. Everything was always a drama with him." "What happened?" "He wanted more than I could give," Marisol said after a pause. "He said I was cold, that I didn't know how to love." Caleb propped himself up on one elbow, looking down at her. "That's not true," he said firmly. "Isn't it?" Marisol challenged. "I've never been good at saying how I feel, at showing it." "You'd show it in other ways," Caleb said. "In how you care for the animals, in how you fix things around the farm, in how you listen when I talk about my day." He brushed a strand of hair from her face. "You're not cold, Marisol. You're just careful with your heart, and that's okay." She reached up, touching his face. "How did you get to be so wise?" "Not wise," Caleb said with a smile, "just observant." They swam in the lake after that, laughing and splashing like children. Marisol couldn't remember the last time she had felt so free, so light. As the sun began to set, they gathered their things and headed back to the farm, walking hand in hand. That night, for the first time, Marisol stayed at the main house. They made love slowly, tenderly, with a reverence that brought tears to her eyes. Afterward, she lay in Caleb's arms, listening to the steady beat of his heart. "I could get used to this," she whispered. Caleb kissed the top of her head. "Good," he said, "because I'm already used to you being here." As September turned to October, the farm work intensified with the harvest. They spent long days picking apples, making cider, and preparing the fields for winter. The work was hard but satisfying, and Marisol found herself thinking of Sweet Pine as home. One evening, as they were finishing the day's chores, Caleb received a phone call. Marisol could tell from his expression that something was wrong. "Everything okay?" she asked when he hung up. "My mom," Caleb said, running a hand through his hair. "She fell and broke her hip. Dad's pretty shaken up." "Are they in Florida?" Marisol asked. Caleb nodded. "I need to go down there, help them out until she's back on her feet." "Of course," Marisol said immediately. "When do you leave?" "First thing in the morning," Caleb said. "But I don't know what to do about the farm. The harvest isn't finished, and there's still so much to do before winter. I'll take care of it," Marisol said without hesitation. Caleb looked at her in surprise. "Marisol, that's too much for one person." "I can handle it," she insisted, "and I'll call Jake to help with the heavy lifting." Jake was a local teenager who sometimes worked at the farm on weekends. "Are you sure?" Caleb asked, his eyes searching. "Hers, I'm sure," Marisol said firmly. "Your parents need you. The farm will be fine." Caleb pulled her into a tight hug. "What did I do to deserve you?" he murmured against her hair. "Just got lucky, I guess," Marisol said, trying to keep her tone light despite the worry in her chest. She had never run a farm on her own before. The next morning, Marisol drove Caleb to the airport. Their goodbye was brief but emotional. I'll to call every day," Caleb promised, holding her close, "and I'll be back as soon as I can." "Take care of your parents," Marisol said. "Don't worry about the farm. I've got it covered." "I know you do." Caleb kissed her deeply. "I trust you, Marisol, with everything." The weight of those words stayed with her as she drove back to Sweet Pine alone. Trust, such a simple word, but so profound. Caleb trusted her not just with his farm, but with his heart. And somehow, without planning to, she had given him hers. In return, The first few days without Caleb were strange. The farm seemed too quiet, the house too empty. But Marisol threw herself into the work, determined to prove that his trust in her was not misplaced. She was up before dawn each morning, feeding the animals, checking the fences, and tending to the countless tasks that needed doing. During the day, she harvested the remaining apples, made arrangements for the hay to be baled and stored, and prepared the gardens for the coming frost. In the evenings, she would collapse into bed, exhausted but satisfied. Caleb called every night, as promised. He told her about his mother's surgery, his father's worry, and how strange it was to be back in his childhood home. Marisol told him about the farm, the animals, and how much she missed him. "I wish you were here," she said one night, a week into his absence. "I wish I was there too," Caleb replied. "Mom's doing better, but the doctors say she needs at least another week of observation." "Take all the time you need," Marisol assured him. "Everything's under control here." But the truth was, she was starting to feel overwhelmed. The weather had turned suddenly cold, with a frost warning for the coming weekend. The remaining apples needed to be picked immediately, and Jake had called to say he couldn't help because of a school project the next day. Marisol worked from dawn until well after dark, picking as many apples as she could. Her hands were raw, and her back ached, but she kept going, driven by her promise to Caleb. As she was finishing up, a truck she didn't recognize pulled into the driveway. A woman stepped out, blonde and expensively dressed, looking completely out of place on the farm. "Can I help you?" Marisol called, climbing down from her ladder. The woman looked her up and down, taking in her work clothes and dirt the face. "I'm looking for Caleb Morgan," she said, her voice cool and precise. "He's not here right now," Marisol said, suddenly conscious of her appearance. "I'm Marisol Vega. I work here, Vanessa Winters," the woman replied, not offering her hand. "I'm an old friend of Caleb's." Something in her tone made Marisol doubt the friend part. "Well, Caleb's in Florida with his parents. His mother broke her hip." "Oh, how awful," Vanessa said, though she didn't sound particularly concerned. "And he left you here alone to manage all this." She gestured around at the farm with a manicured hand. "I can handle it," Marisol said, bristling at the implied criticism. "I'm sure you can," Vanessa said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "When you speak to Caleb, would you tell him I stopped by? I'll be in town for a few days. He has my number." With that, she got back into her truck and drove away, leaving Marisol standing in the yard, a sense of unease growing in her stomach. That night, when Caleb called, Marisol hesitated before mentioning Vanessa's visit. Vanessa was here. Caleb sounded surprised. What did she want? "She didn't say," Marisol replied, trying to keep her voice neutral, "just that she was in town and wanted to see you." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "Vanessa and I... We were engaged once," Caleb said finally. "She's the one who left because she didn't want farm life." "Oh," Marisol said, a cold feeling settling in her chest. Vanessa, with her perfect clothes and perfect hair, seemed exactly the kind of woman who would catch Caleb's eye. "She's very beautiful, Marisol," Caleb said, his voice firm. "Vanessa is my past, you're my present, and I hope, my future." The words should have reassured her, but Marisol found herself thinking of all the ways she wasn't like Vanessa. She wasn't polished or sophisticated. She was just a farm worker with dirt under her fingernails and calluses on her hands. "I should go," she said. "Early morning tomorrow." Marisol waited, but she had already hung up, tears burning in her eyes. What was she doing? She had known from the beginning that this, whatever it was between her and Caleb, was temporary. She had a job to do, and when it was done, she would move on. That had always been the plan, but somewhere along the way, the plan had changed. She had started to imagine a future here, with Caleb, with the farm, and now Vanessa's appearance had reminded her of all the reasons why that future was just a dream. The next morning, Marisol was in the barn checking on Daisy's leg when she heard a car arrive. Thinking it might be Vanessa again, she steeled herself before going outside. But it wasn't Vanessa, it was Caleb. He stood by his truck, looking tired but happy to be home. When he saw her, his face lit up with a smile that made her heart twist. "What are you doing here?" she asked, walking toward him. "Your mother is doing much better," Caleb finished for her. "And my aunt arrived yesterday to help out." He took a step closer. "I needed to come home to you." Marisol didn't know what to say. Part of her wanted to run into his arms, but another part, the cautious, self-protective part, held her back. "I saw Vanessa," she said instead. Caleb's smile faded. "I know, you told me. She's exactly the kind of woman I always imagined you with," Marisol continued. "Elegant, sophisticated, and completely wrong for me," Caleb said firmly. "Marisol, what's this really about?" Marisol looked away. "I'm not sure I belong here," she admitted. "On the farm, with you." Caleb closed the distance between them, taking her hands in his. "Look at me," he said gently. She raised her eyes to his, seeing the warmth and affection there. "You belong wherever you choose to belong," Caleb said. "And I hope you choose to belong here, with me, but that's your decision to make." "It's not that simple," Marisol argued. "I'm not the kind of woman who what?" Caleb interrupted. "Who works hard, who cares deeply, who's brave enough to try new things." He squeezed her hands. Because that's exactly the kind of woman you are, Marisol Vega, and that's exactly the kind of woman I want in my life. The sincerity in his voice was undeniable. Marisol felt the walls around her heart crumbling. I missed you, she whispered. I missed you too, Caleb replied, pulling her into his arms. More than I can say. As they held each other in the morning sunlight, Marisol realized something important. For the first time in her life, she wasn't thinking about running away. She was thinking about staying, about building something lasting, about love. But there was still one thing that terrified her, one thing she had never experienced and wasn't sure she knew how to navigate: the vulnerability of being truly loved and of loving in return. The weeks following Caleb's return from Florida brought a new rhythm to life at Sweet Pine Farm. With the harvest completed and winter approaching, the pace of work slowed, allowing more time for Marisol and Caleb to simply enjoy being together. They fell into comfortable routines: coffee together at dawn, working side by side during the day, and evenings spent in the warmth of the main house, talking, laughing, and growing closer. Marisol had moved most of her belongings from the cabin to Caleb's house, though she still kept the cabin as her personal space for when she needed solitude. One chilly November morning, Marisol woke to find Caleb's side of the bed empty. She found him in the kitchen, making pancakes and humming softly to himself. "Morning," she said, wrapping her arms around him from behind. He turned in her embrace, spatula still in hand, and kissed her forehead. "Good morning, beautiful. Sleep well, always do with you," she replied, surprising herself with how easily the affectionate words came now. 3 months ago, such openness would have been impossible for her. Caleb's smile was warm and appreciative. "I was thinking we could drive into town today. The winter festival starts this weekend, and I thought you might like to see it." "Sounds nice," Marisol agreed, pouring herself a cup of coffee. "I need to pick up a few things anyway." The town of Pine Ridge was small but charming, with a main street lined with locally owned shops and cafes. The winter festival had transformed it into something magical, with twinkling lights strung across the street, vendors selling hot chocolate and fresh-baked goods, and holiday music playing from speakers mounted on the lampposts. "It's beautiful," Marisol said as they walked hand in hand down the crowded sidewalk. "Wait until you see the tree lighting tonight," Caleb replied. "The whole town turns out for it." They spent the day exploring the festival, stopping to chat with neighbors and friends. Marisol was surprised by how many people knew her name, greeted her warmly, and treated her as if she belonged. It was a new experience for her, this feeling of being part of a community. "Everyone's so friendly," she commented as they left the bakery, paper bags filled with fresh bread and pastries in hand. "Small town," Caleb explained with a smile. "Everyone knows everyone, and everyone's been curious about the woman who's been making me so happy." Marisol felt a blush warm her cheeks. "Have I been making you happy?" Caleb stopped walking, turning to face her in the middle of the sidewalk. "Happier than I've ever been," he said, his voice low and sincere. "You've brought something to my life that I didn't even know was missing." Before Marisol could respond, a voice called out, "Caleb, there you are." They turned to see Vanessa approaching, elegant as ever in a tailored wool coat and designer boots. Marisol felt herself tense involuntarily. "Vanessa," Caleb acknowledged with a polite nod. "I didn't know you were still in town." "Just for the festival," Vanessa replied, her gaze sliding briefly to Marisol before returning to Caleb. "Mother insisted we stay for the tree lighting. You know how she loves tradition. Mrs. Winters is here too." Caleb looked surprised. "The whole family," Vanessa confirmed. "Father's closing a deal with the Hendersons, you remember, the property adjacent to our old summer house. They're finally selling." Marisol listened to this exchange, feeling increasingly out of place. These people with their summer houses and business deals inhabited a world so different from her own. "We're having dinner at La Maison tonight," Vanessa continued. "You should join us, for old time's sake." Her smile was warm but didn't quite reach her eyes as she added, "Your friend is welcome too, of course." "Marisol," Caleb said firmly. "Her name is Marisol, and she's not just my friend." Vanessa's smile tightened almost imperceptibly. "Of course, my apologies. Both of you are welcome." "Thank you," Caleb said. "But we have plans for the tree lighting. Another time, perhaps." Vanessa nodded, accepting the rejection gracefully. "Well, don't be a stranger, Caleb. It's good to see you looking so rustic." With a final glance at Marisol, she walked away, her heels clicking on the pavement. "Sorry about that," Caleb said once she was out of earshot. "Vanessa can be a bit intimidating," Marisol suggested. "I was going to say condescending," Caleb replied with a rueful smile. "She always did think she was better than everyone else." "Her family seems important," Marisol observed. "Summer houses and business deals. The Winters family owns half the real estate in the county," Caleb explained as they resumed walking. "Vanessa's father has been trying to buy Sweet Pine for years." This was news to Marisol. "Why location?" Caleb said simply. "It's prime land for development. He wants to build a resort or something equally profitable." "Would you ever sell?" The question slipped out before Marisol could stop it. Caleb looked at her, his expression serious. "Not a chance. Sweet Pine isn't just land to Mitt's home. It's heritage. It's where I want to raise my family someday." The word family hung in the air between them, full of meaning and possibility. Marisol felt her heart quickened at the thought of family with Caleb. Children running through the fields of Sweet Pine, a future full of love and belonging. What about you? Caleb asked softly. Could you see yourself there, long term? It was the first time he had directly asked about their future together. Marisol took a deep breath, pushing past her instinctive fear of commitment. Yes, she said simply. I could. The smile that spread across Caleb's face was like the sun breaking through clouds. He pulled her close, right there on the sidewalk, and kissed her deeply. Good, he whispered against her lips. Because I can't imagine Sweet Pine without you anymore. The tree lighting ceremony was everything Caleb had promised, magical and full of community spirit. They stood among the townspeople, drinking hot cider and singing carols as the massive pine tree in the town square was illuminated with thousands of twinkling lights. As the crowd cheered and the band played Joy to the World, Caleb slipped his arm around Marisol's waist, pulling her close against the cold. Happy? He asked, his breath visible in the frosty air. Marisol looked up at him, at the love shining in his eyes, and felt a surge of emotion so strong it almost overwhelmed her. Yes, she said, very happy. And she was, for perhaps the first time in her life, Marisol Vega was truly, completely happy. The drive back to the farm was quiet, both of them content in the warm cab of Caleb's truck. As they passed the town limits sign, Caleb reached over and took Marisol's hand. I've been thinking, he said, his eyes on the road ahead. The cabin you've been using, Guy was planning to renovate it this winter, turn it into a proper guest house. Oh, Marisol wasn't sure where this was going. But then I thought, why not turn it into a studio instead? A place where you could study if you wanted to pursue that veterinary dream. Marisol stared at him, stunned. Caleb, that's too much, is it? He glanced at her briefly before returning his attention to the dark road. I just want you to have options, If being a vet is still something you want, I'd like to help make that happen. I don't know what to say, Marisol admitted. The idea of someone supporting her dreams, investing in her future, it was entirely new territory. You don't have to say anything right now, Caleb assured her. Just think about it. When they arrived home, the farm was quiet and still under a blanket of stars. They went through their evening routine, checking on the animals one last time, making sure the heat was on in the barn for the new foal-born just a week ago, locking the doors of the main house. In bed that night, wrapped in Caleb's arms, Marisol found herself thinking about his offer. It wasn't just the practical support he was offering, though that was significant. It was the belief behind it, his absolute confidence that she could achieve whatever she set her mind to. Caleb, she whispered, not sure if he was still awake. His voice was drowsy. Thank you for believing in me. He pulled her closer, pressing a kiss to her hair. Always, he murmured, always. The days leading up to Christmas were busy with preparations. Caleb insisted on cutting down a fresh pine tree from their own land, and they spent an evening decorating it with a mix of family heirlooms and simple ornaments they had picked up at the festival. This one was my grandmother's, Caleb said, carefully hanging a delicate glass angel on a high branch. She gave it to my mother on her first Christmas as a Morgan, and Mom gave it to me when I took over the farm. Marisol studied the angel, its wings glittering in the light. It's beautiful. Tradition, Caleb explained with a smile. Every new Morgan gets an angel for their first Christmas with the family. The implication wasn't lost on Marisol. She turned away, busying herself with another box of ornaments to hide the sudden tears in her eyes. The thought of being part of a family tradition, of belonging to something bigger than herself, it touched a deep, long-neglected part of her heart. On Christmas Eve, they drove to the airport to pick up Caleb's parents. Helen Morgan was using a walker but otherwise seemed to be recovering well from her hip surgery. James Morgan, tall and broad-shouldered like his son, had the same kind eyes and easy smile. So you're the famous Marisol, Helen said, embracing her warmly. Caleb hasn't stopped talking about you in all his calls. Mom, Caleb protested, his cheeks reddening. What? It's true, Helen insisted. James, isn't it true? Every call, James confirmed with a wink at Marisol. Our boy's smitten. Marisol found herself relaxing in the face of their warmth and easy humor. She had been nervous about meeting Caleb's parents, worried they might not approve of her. But their immediate acceptance melted those fears away. The farmhouse, always cozy, seemed even more so with the addition of Caleb's parents. Helen immediately took over the kitchen, insisting on cooking the traditional Morgan family Christmas dinner despite her recent surgery. Marisol worked alongside her, learning family recipes and listening to stories about Caleb's childhood. He was always such a serious little boy, Helen said as they prepared the stuffing for the turkey. Always taking care of things, stray animals, broken toys, other children's problems. He has a healer's heart. I've noticed, Marisol said softly, thinking of all the ways Caleb had healed her own wounded heart over the past months. Helen gave her a knowing look. He loves you very much, you know. Marisol nodded, not trusting herself to speak. And I think you love him too, Helen continued, her voice gentle, even if you haven't said it yet. Marisol looked up in surprise. How had Helen known? A mother, it sees these things, Helen said, answering the unspoken question. The way you look at him when you think no one's watching. The way you reach for him without thinking. I do, Marisol admitted. Love him. I just, Haven single quotes T. Found the words. Helen suggested they'll come when the time is right. On Christmas morning, they gathered around the tree to exchange gifts. Caleb's parents had brought presents for everyone, including a beautiful hand-knit sweater for Marisol. I started it as soon as Caleb told us about you, Helen explained. Every Morgan needs a proper sweater for winter farm work. Thank you, Marisol said. Touched by the thoughtfulness of the gift and what it represented acceptance into their family, she had worried about what to get for Caleb, wanting it to be special, but not knowing what would be meaningful enough. In the end, she had decided on something simple but heartfelt, a leather-bound journal filled with her thoughts and memories of their time together, along with a promise to add to it each year. It's perfect, Caleb said when he opened it, his eyes suspiciously bright as he read the inscription she had written on the first page, to new beginnings and lasting love. When all the other gifts had been opened, Caleb reached under the tree for one last small box. He handed it to Marisol with an expression she couldn't quite read, nervous, hopeful, and something else. One more, he said. This one's special. Marisol unwrapped the small package carefully. Inside was a velvet box, and inside that, nestled on a bed of satin, was a delicate silver angel ornament, its wings set with tiny crystals that caught the light. For your first Christmas as a Morgan, Caleb said softly, or at least, I hope ... He moved from the couch to one knee in front of her, taking her hands in his. Marisol felt her heart stop, then start again at double speed. Marisol Vega, Caleb said, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes. I know we haven't known each other long, but I've never been more certain of anything in my life. You've brought joy and light to Sweet Pine, and to my heart. I can't imagine my future without you in it. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a ring, a simple silver band with a small, perfect diamond. Will you marry me? Will you make Sweet Pine your home, and me the happiest man alive? Marisol was aware of Helen's gasp and James's broad smile, but her focus was entirely on Caleb, on the love and hope shining in his eyes, on the future he was offering her, on the home and family she had never thought she could have. For a moment, old fears threatened to surface, fear of disappointment, of abandonment, of not being enough. But then she looked at Caleb, really looked at him, and saw nothing but steadfast love and unwavering faith. Yes, she said, her voice clear and sure. Yes, I'll marry you. Caleb slipped a ring onto her finger and then pulled her into his arms, kissing her deeply as his parents applauded. When they broke apart, both were laughing and crying at the same time. I love you, Marisol said, the words finally coming easily. I love you so much. I love you too, Caleb replied, his forehead resting against hers. Always will. The rest of the day passed in a blur of celebration, phone calls to share the news, and plans for the future. By evening, they were all pleasantly exhausted, sitting around the fireplace with mugs of hot chocolate. Have you thought about a date? Helen asked, always practical. Marisol and Caleb exchanged a look. Not yet, Caleb answered. We have time to figure it out. Spring would be lovely, Helen suggested. After the worst of winter, but before the busy season. Mom, Caleb said with a laugh, we just got engaged today. Give us a minute to enjoy it before we start planning. Just thinking ahead, Helen said innocently. And of course, you'll want to be married here at Sweet Pine, in the garden perhaps, or by the lake. As Helen continued to outline her vision for the wedding, Marisol caught Caleb's eye and smiled. His mother's enthusiasm was sweet, if a bit overwhelming, and Marisol found she didn't mind. It was nice to have someone excited about planning a celebration of their love. Later that night, after Caleb's parents had gone to bed, Marisol and Caleb sat together on the porch swing, bundled up against the cold. The farm was peaceful under a blanket of stars. The only sound, the occasional whinny from the barn or bark from the farm dogs. Happy? Caleb asked, echoing his question from the night of the tree lighting. Marisol looked down at the ring on her finger, still not quite believing. It was real. Happier than I ever thought possible, she answered honestly. Me too, Caleb said, pulling her closer. You know, when you first arrived here, all tough and independent, I never would have guessed we'd end up here. Me neither, Marisol admitted. I was so determined not to need anyone, not to let anyone in. What changed? Caleb asked genuinely. Curious. Marisol. Thought about it. You did, she said finally. You showed me that love doesn't have to hurt, that it can be gentle and kind and safe. She turned to look at him. You made me feel safe, Caleb. Safe enough to take a chance on us. Caleb's eyes were suspiciously bright in the moonlight. That might be the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me, he said, his voice rough with emotion. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching their breath form clouds in the cold air, content in each other's company and the promise of their future together. There's just one thing, Marisol said eventually. What's that? Caleb asked. I've never heard it, she said quietly. Not from family, not from anyone. The words ... I love you. No one's ever said that to me. Caleb looked at her for a long moment, his expression a mix of sadness and determination. Then he took her face gently in his hands, his eyes locked with hers. Then you'll hear it every day from now on, he said, his voice firm and reverent. I love you, Marisol Vega. I love the strength in your kindness. I love your heart. I love everything about you, and I will tell you so every single day for the rest of our lives. Tears spilled down Marisol's cheeks, but they were tears of joy, of release, of healing. She had spent her whole life believing she wasn't worthy of such love, such devotion. But here was Caleb, offering it freely, asking only that she accept it. I believe you, she whispered, and it was true. For the first time in her life, Marisol believed in love and its power to heal, to transform, to last. Caleb kissed her then, a kiss full of promise and hope and dreams for their future together. And as Marisol kissed him back, she knew with absolute certainty that she had found her home, her heart, her everything. In Caleb's arms, under the vast starry sky with Sweet Pine Farm spread out around them, Marisol Vega, soon to be Marisol Morgan, was exactly where she belonged. The news of their engagement spread quickly through Pine Ridge. Friends and neighbors stopped by with congratulations and small gifts. Even the local newspaper ran a short announcement, complete with a picture of the happy couple that someone had taken at the winter festival. Marisol found herself unexpectedly touched by the community's response. These people hardly knew her, yet they seemed genuinely happy for her and Caleb. It was another new experience, being welcomed, being celebrated, being part of something larger than herself. One afternoon in late December, while Caleb was in town picking up supplies, Marisol answered a knock at the door to find Vanessa standing on the porch. Vanessa, she said, surprised, Caleb's not here right now. I know, Vanessa replied. I saw him in town. I came to talk to you. Hesitantly, Marisol invited her in. They sat in the living room, an awkward silence stretching between them. I heard about your engagement, Vanessa said finally. Congratulations. Thank you, Marisol replied, wary of the other woman's intentions. Vanessa looked around the room, taking in the simple furnishings, the family photos, the Christmas decorations still up. It's exactly the same, she murmured, all these years, and nothing's changed. Why are you here, Vanessa? Marisol asked directly. Vanessa's gaze returned to her, sharp and assessing. I wanted to see the woman Caleb chose over me, she said bluntly. The woman who's willing to live the life I couldn't. I'm not living any kind of life except my own, Marisol replied, lifting her chin. And Caleb didn't choose me over you. You left him, remember? A flash of surprise crossed Vanessa's face, quickly replaced by a cool smile. He told you about that, did he? He tells me everything, Marisol said simply. Then he told you why I left. Vanessa leaned forward. Because he wouldn't sell this place. Because he chose dirt and animals over a future with me. He chose his heritage, Marisol corrected. His home, the place he loves. And now you're choosing it too, Vanessa observed. This simple life, no ambition, no greater aspirations, just ... this. She gestured around dismissively. Marisol felt a flash of anger, not for herself but for Caleb and the life he had built. A life of hard work, yes, but also of deep satisfaction and connection to the land. You're wrong, she said firmly. There's nothing simple about what Caleb does. He works harder than anyone I've ever known. He cares for this land, these animals, this community, and he does it with love and integrity. She stood up, tired of Vanessa's condescension. If you couldn't see the value in that, then you didn't deserve him. Vanessa stood as well, her expression unreadable. You really do love him, don't you? With all my heart, Marisol answered without hesitation. Vanessa nodded slowly. Good, he deserves that. She reached for her purse. I should go at the door, she paused. For what it's worth, I think you're right for him in a way I never was. I hope you'll be very happy together. And with that, she was gone, leaving Marisol standing in the doorway, processing the unexpected encounter. When Caleb returned home and Marisol told him about Vanessa's visit, he was concerned. What did she want? He asked, frowning. To see if I was worthy of you. I think, Marisol answered with a small smile. And maybe to make peace with her own choices. Caleb pulled her into his arms. You're more than worthy, he said firmly. You're everything I've ever wanted. As the new year approached, Marisol found herself reflecting on the incredible journey of the past 6 months. She had arrived at Sweet Pine, a solitary, guarded woman, expecting nothing more than temporary work and quiet solitude. Instead, she had found love, family, community, a whole new life she had never dared to dream of on New Year's Eve. They hosted a small gathering at the farm. Caleb's parents, a few close friends and neighbors. As midnight approached, everyone gathered on the porch to watch the fireworks from town. Any resolutions for the new year? Caleb asked, his arm around Marisol's waist. She thought about it for a moment. Just one, she said. To believe in this. In us. Every day. Caleb smiled. That warm, gentle smile that had first caught her attention all those months ago. That's a good one, he said. I think I'll borrow it. As the clock struck midnight and fireworks lit up the sky, Caleb kissed her, tenderly. Happy New Year, future Mrs. Morgan, he whispered against her lips. Happy New Year, Mr. Morgan, she replied, her heart full to bursting around them. Friends and family cheered, glasses clinked, and the new year began, a year that would bring their wedding, perhaps the start of their own family. and certainly more challenges and joys than they could imagine. But whatever came, Marisol knew one thing with absolute certainty. She would face it all with Caleb by her side, his love a constant presence, a daily affirmation, a promise kept. "I love you," he said, as if reading her thoughts. "I love you too," she replied, the words coming easily now, naturally, like breathing. And in that moment, under the starry sky, with fireworks painting the darkness with light and color, Marisol Vega was exactly where she was meant to be. At last, loved at last, complete at last, complete at last. Winter gave way to spring at Sweet Pine Farm. The snow melted, revealing tender green shoots in the fields, and the apple trees in the orchard burst into delicate pink and white blossoms. It was, Caleb said, the perfect time for a wedding. Marisol stood by the bedroom window, watching the sunrise paint the farm in golden light. In just a few hours, she would become Mrs. Caleb Morgan. The thought still amazed her that she married Vega, who had never believed in lasting love, was about to commit herself to forever. "Nervous?" Helen asked, entering the room with a garment bag draped over her arm. A little, Marisol admitted. "Not about marrying Caleb, just about everything else." Helen smiled knowingly. The ceremony, the guests, being the center of attention. Exactly. Marisol had wanted a small, simple wedding, but somehow the guest list had grown to include what seemed like the entire town of Pine Ridge. Everyone wanted to celebrate the marriage of Caleb Morgan, whose family had been part of the community for generations. "Well, let's get you ready," Helen said practically, one step at a time. The dress was simple but beautiful, an ivory sheath with delicate lace overlay, elegant without being fussy. Marisol had chosen it because it felt like her, straightforward, unadorned, but with unexpected details that revealed themselves only on closer inspection. As Helen helped her into it, Marisol thought about how much had changed in the years since she'd arrived at Sweet Pine. She had come with nothing but a duffel bag and a guarded heart, expecting to stay only 6 months. Now she was making it her permanent home, marrying the man she loved, and even starting classes at the local community college. The first step toward her long-abandoned dream of veterinary medicine. "You look beautiful," Helen said, her eyes misty. As she fastened the last button, "Caleb won't know what hit him." Marisol smiled, turning to look at herself in the full-length mirror. The woman who looked back at her was someone she barely recognized, not just because of the dress or the carefully arranged hair, but because of the happiness that radiated from her, the confidence in her posture, the love in her eyes. "Thank you," she said to Helen, meaning it in so many ways. "Thank you for accepting me, for welcoming me into your family, for loving your son so well that he grew into the kind of man who could teach me to love." Helen seemed to understand all that the simple words encompassed. She squeezed Marisol's hand. "Your family now," she said. "That's what families do. They love each other through everything." A knock at the door interrupted the moment. James poked his head in, his eyes widening when he saw "Well, don't you look like a picture?" he said, his voice gruff with emotion. "It's about time, ladies. The guests are all seated, and my son is wearing a path in the grass with his pacing." Marisol took a deep breath. "I'm ready." The ceremony was being held in the apple orchard, beneath the blossoming trees. Rows of white chairs had been set up facing a simple arch covered in wildflowers. Caleb stood beneath it, handsome in a dark suit, his face lighting up when he caught his first glimpse of Marisol with no father to walk her down the aisle. Marisol had worried about this part of the ceremony, but James had quietly offered to escort her, and now she walked beside him, grateful for his steady presence. "He's a lucky man, my son," James whispered as they approached the arch. "And you, my dear, are the daughter Helen and I always wished for." Tears pricked at Marisol's eyes, but she blinked them away, focusing on Caleb and his smile, on the love shining in his eyes, on the future they were about to begin together. The ceremony was brief but meaningful. They had written their own vows, simple statements of love and commitment that reflected who they were as individuals and as a couple. "Marisol," Caleb said, his voice steady and sure, "when you drove up that driveway a year ago, I had no idea. You were bringing with you everything I didn't even know I was missing. You filled this farm with laughter and warmth. You challenged me to be better, to do better. You truly see me and love me anyway." He took her hands in his eyes, never leaving hers. "I promise to stand beside you through whatever life brings. I promise to support your dreams as fiercely as you support mine. I promise to work with you to build a home and a family filled with love and respect. And I promise, as I promised once before, to tell you every single day how much I love you." Marisol's heart felt too full for her chest as she began her own vows. "Caleb, I came to Sweet Pine looking for quiet and solitude. Instead, I found you kind, patient, steadfast. You taught me that love isn't something to fear, that it can be a safe harbor instead of a storm." She squeezed his hands, drawing strength from his touch. "I promise to be your partner in all things, to face whatever comes our way together. I promise to cherish this farm and the heritage it represents. I promise to build a life with you filled with honesty, respect, and joy. And I promise to believe in your love, every day, even when it's hard." They exchanged rings, simple gold bands that matched the simplicity of their relationship, and when the minister pronounced them husband and wife, Caleb's kiss was a seal on all the promises they had just made, a beginning rather than an ending. The reception was held in the large barn, which had been transformed with fairy lights, flowers, and long tables laden with food prepared by friends and neighbors. It was exactly the kind of celebration Marisol had secretly wanted: warm, communal, filled with laughter and genuine affection. As the evening progressed, she found herself drawn into conversation after conversation with people who were no longer strangers but friends and neighbors. The mayor's wife insisted Marisol join the town's garden club. The local veterinarian, hearing of her studies, offered her a part-time job at his clinic. The elderly woman who ran the library invited her to join their book club. Quite a change from the solitude you were looking for, Caleb commented as they shared a quiet moment between dances. Marisol looked around at the barn, full of people who had come to celebrate their marriage. The best kind of change, she said, leaning into her husband's embrace. Later, as the party was winding down, Caleb drew her outside. The spring night was cool but not cold, the sky clear and studded with stars. "I have something to show you," he said, leading her toward the cabin where she had first stayed upon arriving at Sweet Pine. When he opened the door, Marisol gasped. The cabin had been completely transformed. The main room now held a desk, bookshelves filled with veterinary textbooks, and a comfortable reading chair. Large windows had been added, flooding the space with natural light during the day and offering a view of the fields and forests beyond. "Your studio," Caleb said, watching her reaction. "For studying, for dreaming, for whatever you need." Marisol walked slowly around the room, touching the desk, the books, the small details that showed how much thought Caleb had put into creating this space for her. "When did you do all this?" she asked, amazed. "Been working on it for months," Caleb admitted. "Whenever you were in class or helping Mom with wedding plans. Do you like it?" "Like it?" Marisol turned to him, her eyes shining. "Caleb, it's perfect. She struggled to find the words to express what the gesture meant to her. "It's the most thoughtful thing anyone has ever done for me." Caleb's smile was tender. "You deserve it. You deserve everything, Marisol." She went to him then, wrapping her arms around his neck. "I have everything," she whispered. "I have you." They returned to the reception hand in hand, both knowing that the real celebration wasn't the party in the barn, but the life they were beginning together, life built on mutual respect, shared dreams, and a love that had transformed them both. Summer, you came to Sweet Pine, bringing long, sun-drenched days and warm nights scented with honeysuckle and freshly cut hay. Marisol and Caleb settled into married life with an ease that surprised them both, as if they had always been meant to share this life, this love. Marisol divided her time between farm work, her studies, and her new part-time job at the veterinary clinic. The work was challenging but deeply satisfying, confirming that she had made the right choice in pursuing her long-dormant dream. Caleb, watching her blossom, felt a pride that sometimes overwhelmed him. The guarded, solitary woman who had driven up to Sweet Pine a year ago had transformed into this confident, open-hearted person who engaged with life fully and fearlessly. "You're staring," Marisol commented one evening as they sat on the porch, after dinner. She was reading a textbook, her brow furrowed in concentration. "Just admiring my beautiful wife," Caleb replied with a grin. Marisol rolled her eyes, but her smile was pleased. Smooth talker, only speaking the truth. Caleb reached over to tuck a strand of hair behind her ear. "How's the studying going?" "Good." Marisol closed the book, marking her place with a finger. "Dr. Peterson says I have a natural instinct for diagnosis. I knew something was wrong with the Henderson's mare today before the tests confirmed it." "That doesn't surprise me," Caleb said. "You've always had a way with animals." "I've been thinking," Marisol said, a hint of hesitation in her voice. "About the future. About us." Caleb waited, sensing she had something important to say. "I know we've talked about having children someday," Marisol continued, "and I want that tie-do. But I also want to finish my degree, to become a vet." She looked at him, a touch of anxiety in her eyes. "Is that okay? To wait a little longer?" Caleb took her hand, his expression serious. "Marisol, your dreams matter to me as much as my own. We have all the time in the world to start a family, and when we do, our children will have a mother who showed them that it's never too late to pursue what you love." The relief on Marisol's face was palpable. "I love you," she said simply. "I love you too," Caleb replied, the words as fresh and meaningful as the first time he had said them. "Always will." As summer turned to fall, Sweet Pine Farm hosted a different kind of celebration, the one-year anniversary of Marisol's arrival. It had been Caleb's idea to mark the occasion, to gather their friends and family to celebrate not just their marriage but the journey that had brought them together. "It's a bit unconventional," he admitted when he first suggested it, "but then, again, so is our story." The party was small but joyful, held in the orchard where they had been married just months before. The apple trees were heavy with fruit now, their branches bending toward the earth in a gesture that seemed almost like a blessing. As they sat around long tables laden with food, sharing stories and laughter, Marisol felt a deep contentment settle In her soul, this was what she had been looking for all her life without knowing it, not just love, but belonging, a place in the world that was uniquely hers, shared with people who genuinely cared for her. After dinner, as the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, Caleb stood and raised his glass. "A toast," he said, his gaze finding Marisol among the guests. "Two unexpected beginnings. To love that grows in the most surprising places, and to my wife who brought light and laughter to Sweet Pine Farm and to my heart. Here, here." Their guests echoed, raising their glasses. Marisol felt tears prick her eyes as she raised her own glass. A year ago, she would have been embarrassed by such public emotion, but now she embraced it. Love had taught her that vulnerability wasn't weakness but strength, the courage to open oneself to both joy and pain, to risk everything for the possibility of happiness. Later, as the party wound down and guests began to depart, Marisol found a quiet moment alone with Caleb beneath the apple tree where they had exchanged their vows. "Happy?" he asked, echoing the question he had asked her so many times over the past year. Marisol smiled, leaning into his embrace. "Beyond words," she replied. Then, remembering something, she looked up at him. "I have something for you." She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small, wrapped package. "For our anniversary. 1 year since I drove up that driveway and my life changed forever." Caleb unwrapped it carefully. Inside was a small silver frame, and in it, a photograph of the two of them taken on their first visit to the lake, both laughing, completely unaware of the camera. On the back, Marisol had engraved a simple message: "To the man who taught me to believe in love all my heart, all my life." Caleb stared at it for a long moment, his eyes suspiciously bright in the fading light. "This is perfect," he said finally, his voice rough with emotion. "Thank you." "I have something else to tell you," Marisol said, her heart racing with a mixture of nervousness and joy. "Something important." Caleb's expression turned serious. "What is it? Is everything okay?" "Everything is more than okay," Marisol assured him. She took a deep breath, then said the words she had been practicing all day. "We're going to have a baby." For a moment, Caleb just stared at her, as if processing her words. Then his face broke into the most radiant smile she had ever seen. "A baby," he repeated, his voice filled with wonder. "We're having a baby." Marisol nodded, her own smile matching his. "I know we talked about waiting, but life had other plans. Are you happy?" In answer, Caleb lifted her off her feet, spinning her around beneath the apple tree. "Happy doesn't begin to cover it," he said when he set her down again. Ecstatic, overjoyed, terrified, Marisol laughed, understanding completely. "All of the above," she agreed. Caleb placed a gentle hand on her still flat stomach, his expression softening. "A baby," he said again, the word filled with awe. "Our baby. The doctor says I'm about 8 weeks along," Marisol told him. "Due in early spring. And before you ask, yes, I can still finish my degree. It might take a little longer, but Dr. Peterson says the clinic will work with my schedule, and your mom has already offered to help with childcare." "You've thought of everything," Caleb said, impressed. "I wanted to be sure before I told you," Marisol explained. "Sure that we could make it work, my studies, the farm, a baby. We can make anything work, as long as we're together," Caleb said with absolute conviction. He pulled her close, his arms strong and secure around her. "I love you, Marisol Morgan, you and our child." "I love you too," Marisol replied, the words coming as naturally now as breathing. So much they stood together beneath the apple tree, the last golden light of day filtering through its branches, illuminating them in a soft, almost magical glow. Behind them, Sweet Pine Farm stretched out in all directions, fields and barns and the sturdy farmhouse that was now their home. Before them lay the future unknown, unpredictable, but full of promise. A year ago, Marisol had driven up that graveled driveway expecting quiet and solitude. Instead, she had found love in its purest, most transformative form. She had found Caleb, with his kind eyes and steady heart, who had seen the wounded, wary woman beneath her tough exterior and loved her anyway, who had promised that she would hear "I love you" every day from then on, and had kept that promise faithfully. And now, with new life growing inside her, Marisol understood something profound. Love wasn't just a feeling. It was a choice, a daily commitment, a promise renewed with each sunrise. It was Caleb's hand in hers as they walked the fields together. It was the quiet understanding in his eyes when she needed space. It was the warmth of his embrace at the end of a long day. Love was knowing that no matter what the future held, joy or sorrow, triumph or hardship, they would face it together. And in that knowledge, Marisol found a peace she had never known before, a certainty that anchored her, even as life carried them forward into the unknown. As twilight deepened around them, Caleb took her hand. "Let's go home," he said softly. Home. Such a simple word, but so profound in its meaning. Home wasn't just the farmhouse with its weathered clapboards and creaking floorboards. It wasn't just Sweet Pine with its fields and orchards and wide, open skies. Home was wherever they were together. It was the space between their hearts, the love they had built day by day, moment by moment. It was the family they were creating, the two of them, and now the child who would join them in the spring. "Yes," Marisol said, squeezing his hand, "let's go home." Hand in hand, They walked toward the farmhouse, its windows glowing with welcoming light against the gathering darkness. Behind them, the apple orchard stood sentinel, witness to the love that had blossomed there, as surprising and natural as the fruit that hung heavy on its branches. And as they walked, Caleb spoke the words he had promised to say every day for the rest of their lives. "I love you, Mary." The words wrapped around her like a warm embrace, familiar yet never commonplace, ordinary yet profound. She would never tire of hearing them, never take them for granted, because she knew the value of those words, the courage it took to say them and mean them, the commitment they represented. "I love you too, Caleb," she replied, the words flowing from her heart as naturally as water from a spring. Today, tomorrow, always. The farmhouse door closed behind them, and Sweet Pine Farm settled into the peaceful quiet of evening. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new joys, new opportunities to choose love over fear, connection over isolation. But tonight, in this moment, all was well for Marisol and Caleb. The journey that had begun with her arrival at Sweet Pine a year ago was not ending but evolving, unfolding in ways neither could have imagined. The solitary woman who had driven up that graveled driveway, heart guarded and expectations low, had found not just a job or a place to stay, but a home, a family, a future. She had found love in its truest, most enduring form, and in that love she had found herself as they stood in the warmth of their kitchen, making plans for the nursery, discussing names, imagining the child who would join their family in the spring. Marisol thought of the words Caleb had said to her that night in the barn, when she had confessed that no one had ever told her they loved her. "Then you'll hear it every day from now on." It was a promise he had kept faithfully, and now, with their child growing inside her, that promise extended to a new generation. Their son or daughter would never doubt they were loved, never wonder if they belonged. They would grow up surrounded by the certainty of their parents' love for each other, for them, for the life they were building together at Sweet Pine Farm. In the morning they would wake to a new day on the farm. There would be animals to tend, work to do, life to live, but they would face it all together, as they had promised each other, partners in all things, bound by a love that had transformed them both. And every day, without fail, Caleb would say those words that had changed everything for Marisol. "I love you," simple words but powerful beyond measure. Words that had healed old wounds, opened closed doors, created a future neither of them could have imagined on their own. Words that were, at their core, the essence of Sweet Pine Farm itself, strong, enduring, and true.